Good evening for Telesur. I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. Venezuela's armed forces have rallied to support the government of Nicolas Maduro after secret plans for a violent coup were uncovered. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez says the unity of the military forces will not come into a doubt, along with their support and loyalty to the president.
La Fuerza Armada Nacional Bolivariana reitera su apoyo incondicional.
The National Bolivarian Armed Forces reaffirmed their unconditional support and absolute loyalty to our President, Commander of the National Bolivarian Armed Forces, Nicolás Maduro Moros, and reaffirms its commitment to the Constitution, the will of the people, and the plan of the country.
Ley que guía la revolución bolivariana en la construcción del socialismo bolivariano del siglo XXI.
Several Air Force officers and a number of civilian politicians were involved in the plot. According to the plans found on a computer belonging to those arrested, the targets included several public buildings and locations.
The plan was for a military Tucano jet to fly over Caracas and bomb several strategic points, like the headquarters of military intelligence and the nearby Telesur building in the east of the capital. They also intended to bomb Plaza Venezuela, one of the busiest spots in the center of the city, as well as the city hall of the capital district. The Public Prosecutor's Office and the Ministry of Defense, as well as Miraflores' presidential palace, were all on the target list. With these attacks, the plotters apparently intended to create chaos and sow panic amongst the population.
Minister for Planning and Information, RICARDO Menendez, assured that the Venezuelan people are alert and ready to defend the country's sovereignty.
If some people pretend to try any coup attempt, harm the people of Venezuela and President Maduro, they should know that no stone will be left standing, because all the people will come out to defend the country. The defense of the revolution is the defense of democracy. It's the defense of the country.
La defensa de la revolución es la defensa de la democracia, es la defensa de la patria.
Staying with this top story today, the second vice president of the National Assembly has reaffirmed that Telesur was among the plotters' targets. She says that fact reveals a different version of the situation in Venezuela to the world.
The
international press will attempt to misrepresent it and say that it's not really the case, that this is a new attempt by the government to position itself in power, as they say. But notice that one of the targets was Telesur. Why include a television channel as a military target? Because it's bringing the world a different version of the events, which it's done for similar processes in other countries.
Dando a conocer al mundo la otra versión de los hechos, como lo ha hecho Telesur en otros procesos similares al Venezuela.
And let's take a look now at what exactly was planned as part of this coup attempt.
The coup plotters had planned to overthrow the elected government of President Nicolas Maduro with a campaign of violence. From January 6th through January 8th, coup plotters planned to conduct nationwide protests aimed at fomenting unrest in the streets. And the rest of January, they hoped the country would descend into a state of turmoil, paving the way for the violent overthrow of the Maduro administration. On February 3rd, officials at the U.S. Embassy in Caracas attempted to bribe people close to the Venezuelan government to participate in a coup. The coup was scheduled to begin on February 12th. The first targets were to be Chavista and opposition marches commemorating Youth Day. Strategic sites across Caracas were to be bombed. Members of both the opposition and the government were expected to be assassinated. Media outlets would be forced to broadcast the statement announcing the collapse of the government. By February 13th, the coup government expected to be firmly in control of the country and free to roll back Venezuela's socialist revolution.
Bolivian President Evo Morales also added his voice to those supporting Venezuela.
Our solidarity with our brother Maduro and with Venezuela's Bolivarian revolution. I talked to Maduro 2 days ago and he told me about some very delicate issues. And I think all of us have an obligation to respect democracy and respect elections. That's a part of our process.
Around Latin America, the United Nations has denounced that forced disappearances in Mexico are what they call generalized and that most of them go unpunished. Delivering its final report in Geneva, the UN Committee Against Forced Disappearances voiced concern over the impunity. The commission expressed particular concern about the case of the 43 Ayotzinapa students kidnapped by police in September.
We recommended the state party, for example, to establish a special prosecutor office on enforced disappearances, to have specialized investigations and prosecution on this specific issue with a national view, because, I mean, this is exactly a national problem.
Argentina's cabinet chief, Jorge Capitanich, has strongly rejected the decision of a federal prosecutor to accuse President Cristina Fernández of covering up alleged Iranian involvement in the bombing of a Jewish center in 1994.
What we are seeing is an active strategy of destabilization. It's a judicial coup, because this accusation certainly doesn't have any judicial objective. It's clearly political. Its aim is to make a political impact.
Now we go to Colombia, where there have been positive reactions to the announcement by the FARC guerrillas that they will no longer recruit minors under the age of 17 years. Our correspondent Natalia Margarita reports from Bogotá.
El Estado mantiene una estrategia de reclutamiento forzoso.
The FARC's peace delegation chief, Iván Márquez, announced on Thursday they will no longer accept into their ranks minors under the age of 17. Márquez urged the Colombian government to also abandon the practice of recruiting minors.
The military also practiced forced recruitment under the figure of arbitrary detentions that end up in recruitments. They don't even allow the youth to prove whether he is underage or not. He simply is taken into a truck for being recruited and forced to sign for the military service.
The diversity of participants in armed conflict practices such forced recruitment is reflected in a report submitted in Havana earlier this week by the Commission of Historic Conflict, a group of 12 historians of which Jairo Estrada is part of.
It is shown that the conflict has historical causes of a political, economic and social order, which have caused this conflict to persist. The report also contributes to expose that the responsibilities within this conflict belong to the social order, including the state.
Carlos Medina has been in Havana coordinating the visits of different groups of victims. For him, one of the main successes of this round of negotiations was the participation of civil society groups, as the 12 historians, but also delegations of women and peace activists.
Civil society has been finding new paths for getting closer to the peace negotiations in Havana. Within those new paths, there are proposals important not just for the ongoing negotiations, but also for the future of the peace process.
The government's chief negotiator, Humberto de la Calle, welcomed the FARC's latest decision and believes this 32nd round of talks has overall been positive. The next round of negotiations is scheduled to begin on Wednesday, February 25th. Both parties involved have expressed their desire to reach a final peace accord soon. From Bogotá, Natalia Margarita, Telesur.
In Chile, hundreds of families have been evacuated because of a forest fire in the region of Valparaíso. The National Emergency Office informed that over 2,000 hectares of vegetation were burned by the fire, which began last Saturday. The situation forced the national government to declare a red alert in Casablanca and Valparaíso. Firemen and rescue services have remained and are trying to put out the fire. And around the world now, at least 10 people have been killed by artillery fire in the rebel-held city of Lugansk in eastern Ukraine. The attacks come just before a ceasefire is due to take effect from midnight on Saturday. 3 children were among the dead. There has been no let-up in the violence since a peace agreement was brokered by Russia, France, and Germany in Belarus earlier on Thursday. Boko Haram fighters based in Nigeria have for the first time launched an attack inside neighboring Chad. At least 4 civilians and 1 soldier were killed.
Just overnight, we've received reports of the first attack on a village in Chad. The village is called Ngubua. It's on the shores of Lake Chad. We're still getting information about how many people were affected. We know that thousands of refugees were there. The reports that we've received, the town was attacked by about 30 militants using boats. They attacked parts of the town itself. The chef de canton himself was killed. We were in contact with a refugee during the attack, but the phone line went dead. We're still trying to find out more about the situation.
Earlier this week, the government of Niger declared a state of emergency on its border with Nigeria. It comes after a number of Boko Haram attacks there. The violence in northeastern Nigeria has forced more than 150,000 people to flee to neighboring countries. Almost 1 million more are internally displaced within Nigeria. Israeli soldiers have fired live ammunition at Palestinian farmers in the Gaza Strip in what the Agricultural Workers Organization says is another violation of the ceasefire agreement. Noor Harazin has the details.
Today in the Gaza Strip, a new Israeli violation of the agreed Palestinian-Israeli ceasefire was committed after the Palestinian Farmers Committee said that the Israeli forces fired live bullets and also rubber bullets toward Palestinian farmers while they were inside their farms located in eastern Khan Yunis and Khuza'a district. There was no injuries reported. However, the farmers were forced to flee their fields and lands. Meanwhile, in the Palestinian territories in the West Bank, there is celebrations over the release of the youngest Palestinian woman prisoner, which is Malak Al-Khatib, a 14-year-old schoolgirl that was arrested 2 months ago by the Israeli authorities, accusing her of throwing stones and also having a knife. This morning, the Israeli prison services decided to free Malak Al-Khatib.
Original works by U.S. artist Tennessee Williams are being shown in Cuba for the first time. 4 paintings by Williams, who was also a playwright and novelist, are displayed in Cuba's National Museum of Fine Arts in the city of Havana. The exhibition also includes personal photos as well as some editions of his publications. It was opened the wake of the reestablishment of relations between Cuba and the United States in December. An unusual flower show has opened in North Korea. It's called the Kim Jong-il show, and it's being held to mark the 73rd birthday of former leader Kim Jong-il. The flowers are, in fact, a variant of the begonia. The breed was developed by a Japanese horticulturalist in the 1980s and sent to Kim Jong-il as a present. More on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great weekend.